Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, presented by Living Sisu.
I know that whenever I go to do something, I'm 100% in it. I know that I'm committed. I know that I'm real. I know that I care. I know that part of it's for post. I know we post all of our crap and nonsense on social media, but when I post something that I write, I mean it. I mean it. And you know what? That means more to me that I know that I'm living with purpose.
No matter who you are, what sport you play, or the level you're at, we all have one thing in common. We have to overcome adversity and tough challenges. Welcome to the Sisu Mindset. So what's up, everybody? My name is Zach Fucali. I'm co-founder of Living Sisu. I wanted to welcome everybody to the first virtual podcast that we did, recording kind of at a distance with our guests, since you guys are used to having the studio look with Emna and Daphne. So I'm Zach. I'll be a co-host as well, sharing the task with Daph and Emna. And also today, we can introduce John Cadet, which will also be on our show hosting. Super happy to be showing you guys this virtual podcast. John, how you doing, brother?
I'm really good, thank you. So yes, my name is John R. Cadet. I'm a teacher, so I work with kids. I'm a drama teacher, but I also love sports, and that's why I'm also a reporter for RDS. And even if we're not in the studio, we still have some amazing conversation to bring you guys.
Awesome. So thank you, John, and we'll get into today's podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Inspired Podcast by Living Sisu. Whew, Jesus, what a talk we just had with Shane Griffin of Vitamin Patch Club. This guy is a holistic nutritionist, keynote speaker, a holistic life coach. Man, he's been to the bottom, went to rehab back, and now he runs businesses and is one of the most active people out there. John, how crazy was that conversation?
You know what I like about this podcast is that when I have shivers, when I have chills, just speaking to someone, it means it worked, you know? And I had major chills speaking with Shane. He's amazing. His story is incredible. I mean, and the fact that his resilience for me is what resonated the most about all of his stories. It's amazing.
Yeah, and he talks about the word tenacity at some point during this whole thing, and I mean, some of the stories he told were heavy. You know, they were tough to hear. Like it was something that was really raw and real. But that's what it's all about, honestly. Like, this guy was at the pinnacle of his business career in Toronto and all that, and then he had to go to rehab at some point because he hit rock bottom. And wow, he built himself back up. He talked about his truth, and I can't wait for you guys to kind of hear it. Like,
really,
this story is amazing, right?
And I just want to say to people, just be grateful of how Shane was an open book with us. The fact that someone is willing to tell all of his stories with all of his dark past and everything. I mean, I'm so grateful for him to open up with us, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to waste any more time, honestly. We should get to it. I mean, everybody enjoy this podcast. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you go follow Shane Griffin and Vitamin Patch Club, his amazing company, who is also a partner. Man, I don't want to delay anymore. Hey, enjoy this podcast, guys.
Enjoy, guys.
Just a quick note, this episode is brought to you by Vitamin Patch Club. 100% organic, no binders, no fillers, no additives, and it's recommended by many, many doctors. We're all pretty tired of choking down dozens of pills and supplements every day and week to get our nutrients. But these patches are pretty simple. They deliver these nutrients directly through our skin, directly to our bloodstream. So since Vitamin Patch Club is a Living Sisu partner, all members get 20% off these products, and they're amazing. So thank you very much, Shane of Vitamin Patch Club, for supporting the Inspired Podcast. Just before we start, I wanted to remind everybody to download the Living Sisu app pretty much wherever you get your apps, usually on Google Play and the Apple Store, and remind you of our 3 pillars of the Living Sisu community: learn, access, and activate. Super important to learn and give you guys information from the top health and fitness professionals. Secondly, really giving you access to exclusive offers from our partners. And lastly, the activate pillar, creating experiences, tournaments, and great events to get you guys to activate your lifestyle, and so we can live all these great experiences together as a community. So thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of it. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Hey Shane, how you doing, man? Real happy to have you on the show, big guy.
Great to see both you guys, man. How you doing today?
Great. John, how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's the first time I'm seeing Shane. It's an honor to meet you, actually. It's really an honor to meet you. And I gotta say it again, your background is amazing.
I appreciate that. It's been a heck of a ride to get here.
Yeah, and you know what? We're gonna get into that. So welcome to the Living Sisu Inspire podcast. So all right, give us a little bit about yourself, Shane. John doesn't really know you. How about 3 words to describe you? Maybe break the ice here.
Passion, purpose, planning.
3 PPPs: passion, purpose, and planning.
Yeah, those are me now, John. Those were not always me. A little background of me, short story. I know we've got tons of time, but I'd rather, maybe you probe and figure out what you want to learn about me, rather than me just offering myself up on a dish for you, because, sometimes people don't like what I cook. So,
well,
I was raised in Toronto, just north of Toronto in a suburb. Great parents, a loving family, great older brother, middle income kind of family, entrepreneurial family. So the family business was like my second brother, right? And he was about the same age. My dad started it very close after I was born, so I'd be my little brother. We treated it like that. Great company, learned a ton that way. Somewhere along the line, and I can get into this if you want to know more about it whenever we talk about the reverse engineering of who I am now. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the line, something went wrong. Something got cross-wired. I learned a foundational element that made me make poor decisions. I've actually lectured on this about what we call fear-based decisions and growth-based decisions. Hard to do that as an adolescent, but I learned a bad technique, and I parlayed that into a lot of other decisions in my life, and I ended up being a nightclub owner, which wasn't a bad decision, but how I engaged with it, how I became it, and how I incorporated myself into that lifestyle was a fear-based decision. It wasn't a growth-based decision. So I basically had no history in the business. All I knew about nightclub owners is probably what the average Joe knows about them, what they've seen in a movie, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this guy's wild and crazy, and girls and drugs and fast cars and violent at times, or new gangsters or all that stuff. So I had this stereotype here, impregnated. Nobody told me to be a jerk. Nobody told me to be a womanizer. Nobody told me to use drugs. Nobody told me to drink too much. I just lived up to an expectation, a false narrative that I'd created. And for about 15 years in the nightclub business, I was an animal. I ended up being quite successful in the business by against all odds, in a very difficult business. But I made some really bad decisions and choices, and left myself at 37 years old with I'd sold my clubs. I'd been out of the business for about 2 years, sold my properties to developers. And for the last 2 years before I actually got sober, I guess I sold them at 35, so it was 35 to 37. I was just chronically depressed. I was using a ton more. No relationships were valued or had value. I couldn't communicate. I couldn't love. I couldn't engage. And I just fell into this really, really, really terrible spot with suicidal tendencies. Didn't want to belong in this world anymore. Didn't see where I fit in. Felt I was a disappointment to people. Didn't have any hope of what I could do with myself, because everything was predicated on this nightclub personality that I really knew wasn't me. Like, I knew in my bones it wasn't me. Yeah. But
and that's really what's so inspiring about your story, to be honest with you, because I've known you for years now, Shane, and every conversation, people don't know this, right? But I mean, every conversation we had, we barely have a conversation under about an hour at least. So it's usually 2, 3, 4 hours. And that's what I love about you, because there's a wealth of knowledge and wisdom behind everything you're talking about. And this is why this is so valuable to people. You started somewhere, you went to the pinnacle of the nightclub business or whatever, and you fell into some dark places, and then all of a sudden you were all the way down at the bottom of the barrel. You saw rock bottom. You've told me yourself, have you seen that? And all of a sudden now, to see you go every day and see how active you are and how you're involved in the community, involved in all these different projects and fundraisers and helping people, and man, that's just so inspiring to me. And John, like, you're just starting, and people, they're just trying to know who you are. But that's what's so inspiring to me, is that you were at the top, then you went all the way to the bottom, and now you built yourself back up to somebody that's an inspiring figure. So you're working there, but I mean, that's quite the journey. And yeah, you kind of touched on it, but how's that been to be from the top and then go to the bottom and then build yourself back up to where you are now? Such a inspiring figure in the health and fitness and wellness industry.
Well, look, when you're going through what I was going through and having a great time doing it, and nothing else, you're living in ignorance. And I wouldn't trade my existence in the nightclub business, the friends I met, the relationships I had, for anything. I still think back on those days with great glory. Like, we had fun, and I knew that I didn't know I was obviously I wasn't hurting anybody directly. I didn't, have a wife I neglected or kids that I neglected, but there was ripple effects of damage that I've later learned. But at the time you didn't know, because you're just in your echo chamber. So that was a great time. Now, the 2 years that I sold my clubs and I was alone and my relationships were failed, they were first, I want to make something really clear, that I own this, okay? And I think that this is one of the things, if we're going to talk about inspiring people, I think the first thing you have to do is own your shit.
Yeah.
You have to own it. Like, nobody put Coke in my nose. Nobody made me drink 30 shots. Nobody actually made me have low self-esteem. I adopted that culture. I adopted low self-worth and low self-love because of an arrogance of a personality that I had created that actually ate away at the real human inside. So I'm going to answer your question, Zach, I promise you, but I really want to give people kind of the timeline to it, in the sense that I know deep down, and I believe in humanity, and I believe that anybody that's watching this is innately a good human being. I think we're taught hate. I think we're taught discouragement. I think we're taught difficulty. I think we go through hard things in life, but we the human beings wouldn't be human beings if we weren't completion addicts, of evolution addicts, of moving on, of learning new tools, of learning new trades. So I think in our monkey brain, we want to be better. I believe that. So if we can agree that we believe that as a humankind, we're trying to achieve more on all fronts, then part of that has to be emotional development, has to be spiritual development, has to be physical development, has to be growth, right? So
so good. That's so good.
If we can agree that, and maybe some people don't agree, think that we're all just here kind of lollygagging, but I mean, look at what we've done. Look at what we've created in my lifetime at 45 years old. You guys were born, I don't know your age, John, but you guys were probably born and don't remember not having cell phones. At least cordless phones.
Barely, yeah. Barely.
You probably don't remember a phone on the wall in your kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to turn it around.
Yeah, rotary dial. You've seen those.
That's a long time ago for me. I don't know.
Look at Tesla. Look at what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Right this second. I'm talking to you guys from, my back deck, enclosed back deck. So.
Wow.
I think we just have this progression. So if we can agree that as human beings we want to do better, what I did, sadly, is I believe that I'm a good human. I believe that there was a goodness in me, and there was a need to be better. Problem is, I suppressed it. And I touched on this at the very beginning, John and Zach, when I said something happened to me that set me on a bad pathway, a bad foundation. I'm going to touch on that because this is how small something can be that can change your trajectory in life. Then I'm also going to give you how small something can be to get your trajectory back on. So 2 takeaways from this, all right? First takeaway was this is what we learned in rehab when I was in treatment, right? After I sold the clubs and went through my depression, I ended up going to treatment. And while I was in treatment, we're really working backwards on the inner child. Where did we find that Shane started losing love for himself? It didn't just happen overnight. Something had to light that match. And we worked backwards, and we talked about grade 12 and what I remembered about grade 11 and 10 and 9, and we got all the way back to 8th grade, and it was very interesting. And my therapist, Kelly, was looking at me. She goes, so like, explain grade 8 now. Grade 8, that was a crazy year. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, I had been in elementary school from K to 7 at another school. She said, okay. And I said, then I moved from grade 7 to grade 8 to a feeder school to high school. So as a young, maturing, adolescent youth, those are very primal years. Those are very developmental years when you kind of collect your tribe from elementary school and you go to high school and you become a part of a bigger thing, and and puberty's happening and development's happening and you're getting a little more freedom because you get your license soon. Yeah. That's a very, very, very developmental time period. And for me in 8th grade, I switched schools, so I didn't know anyone. New community, new school. And I've always been a talker and an outbound guy, but and Zach, you can relate to this because you're an athlete. There was kids in my school that happened to be an elementary school that had amazing athletes. They were all AAA hockey players, which was a big deal in our town. They were the best. They played like not even in just our little town. They played for the better team outside. They were cherry picked, and they all had the same jackets, the red Thornhill Thunderbirds. You know what I mean? And when
the whole team got the same jacket, you know that it's happening, you know.
Yeah, right. And it was a big deal. Granted, I'm 40,
leather.
That was like our Instagram, right? That was your avatar. What team you played for?
That's true. Yeah.
Because we couldn't Google or search anybody, and they were the kids that were cool. And we're 8th grade. There's 8th grade, right? So like it's not like now when you can intermingle with people. You're with this group all day. So I got there and I really wanted to fit in. And we determined that one little decision cracked a foundation of how I made decisions. And I talked about growth and fear-based decisions earlier. Mm-hmm. So I had an opportunity. One of the kids befriended me, and his name was Jamie. And he asked me if I played hockey. And I did play hockey, but I was a house leaguer, man. I played on the select team, which means we had one extra practice and an extra game a week. Like it was the best house leaguers. Okay?
Right, okay.
Right, and I'm 5'5", and I'm a little wiry kid, and I said, hey, I play hockey. Hey, I play AAA for Stouffville. Right, so I lied. Mm-hmm. I lied to fit in. Nobody told me I had to. Nobody told me that they wouldn't like me unless I was at their level of hockey. Nobody said anything of that to me at all. But in my mind, I had something I had to prove, or I needed to belong in a certain way, so I told a story. Now, I became friends with these guys. Most of these guys I still know to this day, 20, 30 years later, right? 30 years later, 30 years later, I know most of these kids, 33 years in some of them. And not ever once did me being a good hockey player ever come up in any of our friendships, dichotomy of how we became friends. Right. We had fights in our group. We had people not get along, but we all went through high school together. We all stayed in contact through college. I've been to their weddings. They've not been to mine because I'm not married, but I know all their kids. I'm Uncle Shane to all the kids. Some of them have working places in Florida that are close by. We get together. We created a bond. My point is, foundationally, I questioned every single friendship all the way through high school up until I got sober. From 12, 13 years old until I got sober at 37 years old, or 37, I never realized that we were true friends because I always had an underpinning of questioning because I lied the first time I met them. Because I gave myself a fracture in the membrane. Yeah. Right?
Well, what's resonating with me with your story is that I think the reason why you lied to fit in, I guess it was because of, social pressure. You want to fit in, one group. And I want to hear you about, for people who might be listening to us, people who have major differences, what can you tell them so that they won't be scared to fit in? They won't be scared to be different, right. Because I think it's that pressure that's really, really is tough for us. And mostly in high school, we don't want to be different. We don't want to be judged. We want to be just like the other cool guys. We don't want to be the, marginalized. So this kind of social pressure is hard on us. And then it can create, just like you said, the foundation for something really dramatic that can really bring us down in a really, really hard path. So what can you tell to the young guys, to the young girls, young guys who are different, and so that they can embrace their difference?
Well, I think we have a lovely opportunity in this world right now to answer your questions easily. Social media can be the devil, or it can be hope, right? A lot of people look at social media as a place for bullying and a lot of things. It's also an amazing place to be inspired. And the wonderful thing about now is your community can be outside of just your, in my days, tiny community. The 30 kids in that class were all I knew. If I didn't fit in, I didn't fit in.
It
If
was your
Tommy
society.
was a bully, I got bullied by Tommy every day, and it was going to be Tommy for 4 years. You know what I mean? So now I think it's a wonderful opportunity that if you don't feel you fit or you think you're different, find people like you, right? But also, I think before that even happens, we have to develop or instill a level of confidence. And I don't think that that's a given thing. I think that's a learned thing. I think confidence is learned. I think you have to find things that you can win at. And winning can be anything. It can be playing solitaire on your computer. It can be that I would more of being active and healthy and outdoors and doing something like, being the best campfire builder in the world. Learn how to navigate the stars with a compass, old school, without your iPhone. Learn something that you can be good at, that you can be proud of. So if you're different, I'm going to pick something. I'm just going to make it up. You're a 12-year-old kid and you love to sew kilts. Don't know why. You like to sew kilts. And you want to tell the world that you sew kilts, but you're going to be picked on if you're a 12-year-old boy if you sew kilts, because that's not normal. Well, just become the best kilt sewer you ever can, because you know what? Those guys are fashion designers now, and they're making bank.
Right. That's good. That's a good kind of analogy there that you're using. Good.
There is room for you to be great in this world now, and there's a lot more things you can do. So I think it's find the community you fit in with. The hardest thing, I think, for the young kids today, and I say young, God, I hate saying that. I feel so old, man. But I don't feel old. I really don't.
Hey, face your truth. You were just saying, huh?
It's mental. It's in your head. It's in your head.
Yeah. So I think that the best thing that we have to do is we have to just really, really, really take apart and look at who we are as a person.
Yeah.
Nobody can take away goodness. Nobody can take that from you. So if you work on being a decent, good human being, you'll always be able to be proud of yourself. Yeah. That's where I shifted. I became this club owner and this user, and I didn't like who I was. And that's a vicious circle, because you don't like who you are, so you feel guilt, shame. The only way to take that away is use and abuse yourself more. Then you get more guilt and shame, more guilt and shame. We have to use more to suppress that. And then before you know it, it's just a hamster wheel, and all you are is doing guilt, shame, erase, guilt, shame, erase, guilt, shame, erase. You have no time for anything else.
And the kind of the little TSN turning point, if we can call it that way, I don't know if they got the copyrights on that one, but I mean, what was the self-talk like when you realized that, hey, okay, like I need to turn this ship around, like I need to turn this and make this a positive. Like obviously you realize that going on this way wasn't the healthiest way for you to live, and this is not who you wanted to be. Like it sounds like you realized that you wanted to live your truth now. You wanted to go to the truth and enough with the lies and that kind of life that you created. It seems with hearing what you were saying on your story that you really wanted to find that truth. So what was the self-talk like when you decided to make that change and then build your way up, and then we can almost work all our way to whole life balance?
Yeah, for sure. So I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what to do. The scariest thing whenever you're an adult and something's wrong, it's like looking at a child that can't explain. You're the child, though. Like you see a baby crying, it's like, just tell me, do you need food? Do you need to be changed? What do you need? Is your tooth hurting? Is it, you don't know. Well, that's kind of us. Because if we haven't experienced something or don't know how to fix something, we're an infant. So I was broken. I had no idea what was wrong. And I knew it wasn't turning out right, but I had no means to fix it, Zach. That's the big problem. Is I was like, it was kind of the same repetition. I would get really, really hammered, really, really high. I'd be up for a couple days, and I'd be partying with whoever. And I would, like, at the end of the night, the depression would hit, and I'd be like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's so stupid. And you wake up and you feel like garbage, and you feel so embarrassed and humiliated. And the only thing to take away that pain is the same thing that gives you the pain, is to go use again. So it's vicious. So for my aha moment, there was a few things that kind of happened. One, I had a failed relationship, and it was not necessarily my fault, ironically, and especially now that I've got really good optics to look back, and I was cheated on. But I do own the fact that I was not a great partner because I was vacant. I wasn't there. I wasn't owning my own body. I wasn't living in the present, right? So I didn't communicate emotionally. I wasn't compassionate. I wasn't empathetic. Not as much, not even close. I know I was a good man. I never cheated on her. I never hit her. I didn't do anything like that. I wasn't verbally abusive. But I was just not there. I mean, it would be like dating a cardboard cutout of me, you know, except that cardboard cutout every once in a while grabs your hand and says, let's go. So I had a broken relationship, and I went into a really bad summer. That summer, the last summer before I got sober, was really bad. I went down and lived on an old boat that I had in Ontario Place in Lake Ontario, and I just drank it. It was paint the scenario of a real washed up, burned out of shape, pale, thin, skinny fat, you know, like everything. Like I was just tiny, and
right. Not like now.
No, there was no help.
You're almost like a bodybuilder now, man. You turned it around, like it's insane. But this is why I'm kind of like, man, we're talking about all this stuff and finding your truth and everything, and the difference from now, it must be unbelievable, because right now in your life, it's a whole different animal right now. Like you're training every day. I see you on Instagram with your dad. You guys have the workouts going, and you're in the cold plunge in the lake and all that. And obviously there were some times, and now you kind of told us that there was a failed relationship, and you felt like that was kind of a turning point and all that. And now look at you, right? I mean, that's such a positive and inspirational turn of events that you took.
Here's the thing that we want to maintain. We want to maintain truth and authenticity all the way through, right? So it's very important to me that nobody thinks this is not hard, and it's not easy. It's very important people hear that, because it's as hard as you make it, but the pathway is long. But it's easy steps in each one of those steps of the pathway. If you take them in bite-sized steps, you can accomplish anything in the world. If you look at where you want to be and you're here, if you're in the pits like I was and I want to be up here, I want that badly, that's a huge gap. This is a huge space to fill, right? But if you say, okay, I need to get from here to here, I can do that.
Baby steps.
So it's that first movement. So it's constant progression. That's why I said plan, purpose, passion, right? You got to make a plan. You got to find your purpose, and you got to be passionate about it. And passion shouldn't fade. It's not a fire that burns. It's an eternal flame. You can alter it.
That's so good.
You can move your passions. You can manipulate. You can pivot your passions. But you
so good.
Have something you're passionate about. I don't care if it's picking daisies. Be the best damn daisy picker in the league. You know, whatever it is, just do it. So my turning point, Zach, was simple. I was in Greece. I was with a girl, different girl. She left me on the trip because I was out of control. I was banged up. I was beaten up. I'd written off a car drunk. I'd fractured my orbital, broke my nose, fractured 3 ribs. I was laid up in a suite in a villa, and there's an old friend of mine who's a film and actor and director. And I had met him once before for about 6 hours, 5 years or 6 years previously in one of my clubs, and we got along very well. And he said, if you ever see me again, this is what my friends call me. And he said, my friends call me Bobby. So I never expecting to see this gentleman again in my life, because when am I going to see this A-list celebrity in casual walking around? And I'm in Greece and I hear his voice, and he's on the patio next to me. And I go, Bobby. And he goes, Bobby. And he goes, hey, who's that? And I go, it's Shane, come out in the hallway. I'll see you. And he opens the door and he looks at me and his head kind of turns like this. And he's like, do I know you? Like this, right? And I'm like, we met. Shane Griffin, I used to own Therapy Lounge in Toronto. You came by after a film festival.
Oh, because you were pretty banged up at the time. So okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this I met him for 5 hours over drinks at a film festival event.
Right.
He was being polite when he said, it'd be like you, Zach, meeting somebody and saying, hey, if you ever see me out and about, just say, hey, Z, what's up? I'll know we're good buddies.
Right, you know, okay.
You know, I don't think
I would never say that, but it's kind of funny.
Right? So So I looked at me, he goes, the Purple Club. And I'm like, the Purple Club. Because the VIP was purple. So he goes, the Purple Club. He goes, the Purple Club. So anyways, this Bobby is Robert De Niro. Okay? So it was De Niro. Then De Niro and I went for dinner that night. And we're sitting there, and he goes, like, Shane, what happened here? Like, I'm messed up, right? This whole side of my face is black and blue, and I'm walking with a limp. I told him I flew a girl to Greece, and my arrogance, because I was still self-involved, right? Because I was a drunk and everybody else.
You didn't change quite yet, yeah.
No, I hadn't done nothing. I'd done nothing. I was a drunk and an asshole, Zach. I was a jerk. I was a narcissistic jerk. I was everything was about me. I had to be flashy and show offy. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, I brought this girl over here on a plane, first class, and she couldn't hang, and she was just a bitch, and she would. And he looked at me and he goes, I don't think she's too far off. And I'm like, what? He goes, like, you wrecked the car. Like, you rode off a car. And I'm like, yeah, well, she wasn't in it. And I was making an excuse, and he says, hey, can I be honest with you about something? He goes, you're a good kid. You're a good kid, and I remember you from Therapy Lounge. You were a great guy. He goes, and this was one of the most impactful things that ever said to me. And he said, I tell stories for a living. I make stories. I direct stories. I write stories. I'm a storyteller. He goes, and Shane, I think that there's a lot about you that would make a great story, but I could never write it. And I go, why is that? He goes, because in Hollywood, we don't make bad endings. We don't make sad endings.
Wow.
He goes, your movie's going to end sadly, my friend. And it hit me.
Wow.
And it hit me, and it hit me in a weird way, Zach, because I think you and I have talked about this in the past. I'm fascinated with anybody that is exceptional at what they do.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with Zach and what he's accomplished in his career already, because so many people try and work as hard, but there's a spark, there's a gift that I don't have, that he might not have on something I'm good at. Same as with an actor, same as with a plumber, dude, like electrical engineers that know how to wire.
Anybody, really.
A fuse panel. You ever seen how hard it is to lay out all the wires and conduits on a commercial building for fuse paneling? That's a puzzle. Like, if you're the best at it, I want to know what makes you tick. So I admire a guy like him already. Not because he's Bobby De Niro, because he's this acclaimed actor, because he's one of the best at it.
At his job.
And what makes you so great, So when he said it to me, it hit me more than if just somebody else had said it to me. Somebody else is saying, fuck, your story's going to be crap. Like, you're going to die. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You don't know anything. I don't know why. It resonated. And that was the first day I thought about getting help, man. That was the first day I ever openly thought about it as an opportunity.
This is honestly, it's one of the most unbelievable stories that I've heard in my lifetime. John, I don't know about you, honestly, but this is crazy how this is exactly what we're talking about with living Sisu. And this is why I'm so happy to tell this story, because you've changed it to such a positive. Honestly, like, this story was like he was saying, like Bobby was telling you, it wasn't going to end well.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm telling you, I can tell anybody that's listening to this right now. I know Shane Griffin. He's turned this into an insanely positive thing, and that's what I want to go into. Honestly, like, this is so amazing. You started Whole Life Balance in LA, which is, you could talk about a bit of what that is. And guess what? For people that don't know, I'm pretty sure Whole Life Balance doesn't exist anymore, right, Shane?
No, it does. It does. It's under a different holding company name, and I only do it for nonprofit and pro bono now. So
but that's what I was saying, is that was a new project, and now you switched completely to something else. So it's just an insane story of resilience. Honestly, that you kept going and you kept getting better and evolving through all these tough situations, failures, and tough inner kind of voice. You showed an immense grit and kind of tenacity to keep going, and a lot of courage, because a lot of people can't do what you did and what you do now. So I want to talk about Vitamin Patch Club, all that. Go ahead, please.
For a sec. Anyone can do it. What I did is not hard. Okay, I want to make that very clear. Okay, what I did was not hard. I've said this, I lecture on this, and I've made it very clear to people that they stand up and they make a pillar to post with me a lot of the time. And they say, nightclub owner, debaucherous, terrible disaster, to healthcare, empathetic, caregiver, charitable guy, working in the health and wellness space, trying to give back, right? And it seems like a huge gap. I got it easy, my friend. I was able to close a whole chapter on an old personality entirely. I didn't have to walk back into a nightclub and put on a fake personality and go be a decent human being out on the street. I didn't have to go home to a wife that I cheated on, screwed up, and messed up. I didn't have kids that didn't know my name because I was a drunk derelict in the streets. I was able to go to rehab for 30 days. I am so grateful. Hence why I believe that we have to give back, because when you get given a gift, you better friggin' use it. Don't waste it. And I was able to reinvent myself to a total new person. I got a gift. I have clients that I work with now, pro bono, and I'll talk to them. They're a lawyer, a very good lawyer. I'm using an example. I'm making this up. This isn't a real client. That works in a firm. And every night at 5 o'clock, those boys have to go talk about their day at the local bar, right? And he's an alcoholic. How does he coexist in that environment where he used to be the drunk and now he's sober? He's got a much harder road than me, because he's got to go back to peel off a layer of his onion, and now he's more raw and more vulnerable, and everybody knows he was a drunk. That takes resilience. What I did, sir, I was lucky. I went back to school. I got fascinated with the human body. I wanted to heal myself was the most important. I got fascinated in the psychology side, right? When they told me in rehab that because I lied in 8th grade was the first decision I made that gave me a cascading a bunch of decisions that ended me up with no self-worth, no self-love, no self-esteem, and using alcohol and drugs to the point of my heart stopping and me dying 3 times in my life. And that didn't stop me. I'm like, out of one decision, that could have compounded all that? I was mind blown. I'm like, okay, well then I must be able to rewire this. We can rewire this thing in the head, right? I can now say, okay, if I make one amazing decision for myself, how does that trajectory go? Yeah, so, and in that, the amazing decisions is not always for you. It's for those around you. It's for the environment around you. I don't just mean the actual environment. I mean the company you keep, who you engage with, how you engage with people, how you show up, right? Like, I got bad days, bro. I wake up and I look at my phone and we've got no sales.
Yeah.
Something went wrong. Facebook blew up, Instagram blew up, whatever it is. And I'm mad. And I can either go sit in my misery, or I can make my friggin' smoothie. I can go get my ass in the gym. I can get the blood pumping, get the body work, get the mind right, jump into that lake, freeze my balls off in a cold plunge, do some deep breathing exercises, make myself present, and then go back in and say, okay, this problem is here right now. Right now. How are we going to get through it?
Well, I want to piggyback on that, because,
Sorry, I get a little passionate. I don't mean to yell. I hope I'm not.
No problem.
You're all right.
It's all perfect.
Zach, when I mean it, I just kind of, my head gets red.
When you get into it, you get into it, right?
Yeah. That's what we love about you. Well, go ahead, John.
There's a word you said a bunch of times, and I love it. You said, having confidence, you have to work to have your confidence. So you talk a lot about work. And I was talking to some friends, and we were saying that, to have confidence in yourself, it's the little things that you do every day that gives you confidence, right? And so to go from a bad path to a good one, you have to work yourself up. So you have to actually climb the ladder, one step at a time, to be better, right? And then you have to consistently climb that ladder, because you can always go down. In life, I think that in life, you never stay stable. It's either you go up or you go down. If you stop climbing a ladder, then you're going down, right? So you always have to work. So I just want to know, what do you do every day to keep you in the same mindset that you have today? Because I think it takes, it takes a routine, a healthy routine, to be in a positive mindset. Even if you have difficulties with your business, difficulties with your personal life, you need to have a routine to keep you in that healthy, positive mindset. So if you can please tell us, what is your routine that helps you have to keep that mindset?
It's going to sound cheesy, but it's the truth, man.
Let's go with it.
I'm grateful. I should be dead. I should be dead 5-6 times over. I've wrecked. I can't count how many cars I've wrecked. I got thrown from a car while I was impaired driving. It rolled once. I got ejected on the second roll. I got run over by 3 other cars. I ended up 46 yards from my wreck. Intracranial pressure in my skull. They had to sedate me. They had to make me put me under at the hospital. I couldn't walk or talk for a couple days after. I should be dead. And that didn't get me to quit, bro. I still want another 20 years of using. That was when I was 20. Another 25 years of using. I went 20 years of hard. So I'm grateful. This is what. So people say have gratitude every day. That's a great sentiment, and I agree with it. And we need to have gratitude, but you got to have some basis point of what you're grateful. I'm grateful for the stars. Okay, like is that inspiring to you? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But for me, I'm like, no. I'm again. I've built my ecosystem to be reminded every day of how lucky I am. Right. So I do a lot of charity work. Okay.
Yeah.
Zach mentioned that earlier.
Yep.
You wanna realize how good you got it? Go help somebody. Go help somebody that doesn't have something. You wanna find gratitude? Go see what it's like to not have something. When I get to work with somebody, I got an email today that broke my heart. I'm on the way back from looking at a new puppy that I lost my guy a couple weeks ago. But what a life we lived, man! What a life that Mr. Bronx and I had. And I'm looking at filling that hole. And I got an email from a lady today that in my company, in Vitamin Patch Club, I welcome every new customer with a personal video message. Every time somebody orders, so I'm doing like 200-300 of these a day sometimes. It's like, hey, I'm Shane Griffin. I want to welcome you to Vitamin Patch Club, and here's some house cleaning things. Get to our clubhouse. Find us on Vitamin Facebook Clubhouse. All the different things. I'm not going to bore you guys with that illustration. But I always say...
We love Vitamin Patch Club, so we could talk about that all the time. I love it. I'm a fan, so you go ahead.
Yeah, well, people can find that when they find me. I don't like to even... I'm one of these guys that hates pitching my stuff. My product's great. I hope you love it. I hope you try it. That's all I ever say, But I let the pitch people do the pitch. And I do my own videos, so you'll know if you see a video of me on the line.
So that's part of your routine then, huh? You wake up, you're grateful, you help people, and you send kind of welcome videos to people.
Yeah, I do welcome videos, but the one thing I always leave with the video is your success is what drives our success. So if you need anything from me, and I mean anything, if you need advice, mentoring, if you need guidance, if you need coaching, nutrition goals, I'm not just here for vitamin patches and giving you microdose nutrients. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a life coach. I'm here to help you. Your success drives our success. So please,
I love
ask me anything. If I don't know, I'll Google it and I'll find you something, right? I might not know the answer to it, but I'll help you because some people just need help on the simplest things, right? So I got that today from a lady. She said, and she's been a customer now for 3 months, 4 months, and it's private, so I won't read the whole thing. But basically, just said, Shane, this pandemic's got me. You said I could reach out to you anytime. I'm in tears on a treadmill, and I don't know why. Help. How grateful am I, bro? I was out looking at a breeder today in a snowstorm in Orangeville to get a new dog because I lost my best friend 3 weeks ago, but I had 10 and a half years of this pooch, Mr. Bronx, at my side every day. And I'm able to get in my car and drive a few hours away from myself in the middle of the day to go look at a new puppy that will fill a hole in my heart. Like that in and of itself, that ability that I can get in a car, that I have the option of leaving the place that I'm at for work and go and maybe pay an exorbitant amount of money for another dog. I looked at rescues, by the way, if anybody has a thing. There's no rescue boxers in Ontario. So
yeah. Those are hard to come by, huh?
Yeah, just in case anybody wants to, we support Mutt Scouts Foundation. We're actually supporting the Renfrew animal shelter right now in my dog's name. Before we get any hate mail, people.
I'm sure you won't, man. I mean, if you get emails from people who need your help, and you've done some amazing work in terms of, like you were saying, you're a holistic nutritionist, like we talked about in our introduction of you earlier here. You're a holistic nutritionist, you're a life coach, you're a keynote speaker. You've given to charities your time and money and effort and expertise and all these things. Like, you've been around helping people and kind of spreading your message, to get better every day. And this is what I'm hearing from you. Like, you said it. I love that. Your success drives our success. Isn't that what a community is all about? You know what I mean? Isn't that what a team is all about? Isn't that what and I'm thinking of the living Sisu community, how it's everybody from different sports. Everybody's success will help each other learn to grow. And this is why I'm so excited to have you and talk about your success with Vitamin Patch Club, with all your charities, all your work you've done, all the work we've done. Like, I've asked you to help me, right? So this is so inspiring, and I love that. I love that you said that. Your success drives our success. That's great. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's, it's the mindset that I love. The fact that you disconnected yourself completely from your own success, and then you're giving yourself to the other people. And it resonated with me because there's a verse in the Bible that says there's much more happiness in giving than receiving. And
Absolutely.
this for me is what Vitamin Patch is all about. I so want to give you so that if you're successful, then I'm successful, and this for me is awesome. And I was asking myself, because you were talking about, your path through to getting better, and then you started your business, Vitamin Patch, and I was just wondering, why nutrition? Why did you decide to go on nutrition to help you overcome all the problems and everything that you had?
Great question.
Yeah, no, it's good. I was in treatment. I was in rehab, and on the last week they give you your exit strategy, right? We start building your exit plan, what you're going to do post treatment, and it's extremely important to have a plan, like a really solid plan for months and months and months after. Most people fail on recovery, and this is where I do most of my pro bono work, is early onset recovery. So I work with people right when they get out of rehab to keep them in line, almost like a sober coach, but it's not a sober coach because you can't call me at 3 a.m. with weak questions. It's about planning. It's about preparing. It's about finding your passion. Yeah. So in my case, I was getting up, and I was in the nightclub business, hospitality business, so I kind of felt comfortable around the kitchen staff a lot, the guys that were making the food for us. So I was in the kitchen a lot. And then I didn't realize this, and I'm going to toot my own horn because I've been told I need to. I have a gift. I'm very lucky. I didn't know I had this gift. I connect with people, and I really genuinely care about people. And I learned in treatment that, and I was from one of my therapists, said, Shane, usually, because I didn't know what I was going to do after. I'm like, I was a nightclub owner. What am I going to do? She goes, you ever thought about being a therapist? I'm like, what? I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to listen to idiots like me complaining about their so wonderful life. I'm like, I'd slap a guy like me, right? I'd like, snap out of it, you spoiled kid. Go smarten your life up, So, but she said, no, Shane, and this is a gift that was given to me by Kelly, who was one of my therapists at treatment. She said, do you know that you got 3 people to stay here that were about to give up on treatment? I'm like, no, I didn't. She goes, you did. I go, I didn't mean to get involved. She's like, whatever you said, however you connected, you gave them hope. Either through what you were doing, through action or verbal. Yeah. I don't know, Shane, but you've been mentioned. She goes, clients don't get mentioned in my sessions unless they're mad at the people usually. It's like, that Tommy's a jerk. I don't want to be in his group anymore, in rehab. In my case, it was like, hey, can I find a way to work with Shane's group? And I don't know who they were, and I don't know what I did. But it was recognized as a gift. And I said, okay, I need to do more of that. I'm good at that without being good at it. You know what I mean? So like that's just a gift. That's, and I can hone that gift. So nutrition was, she said, what do you think about going back to school to be a therapist? I'm like, no, I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to get a PhD in that. I said, I think I need like a 2-year program. And she said, what about chef? Would you like to be a chef? I said, I don't know one healthy chef. I know a ton of chefs. They're animals, right? And I'm like, no, I think working in a kitchen chaotic. I enjoy cooking. I don't want it as a profession. We landed on a 2-year program at a nutrition school. And here's what was really important. This is a good takeaway for your crew here that's watching. Is I flunked out of university, okay? So I was now 37, 38 years old, going to go back to school. I was scared to go back to school. I had no skill sets to study. I didn't have good training. And I looked at my therapist. I'm like, school? Oh, God. She goes, Shane, you always said you regret not finishing your university. It was a great opportunity. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't. She goes, it's 2 years. She goes, but here's the thing. You have a goal and a plan. I said, yeah. She goes, you might not like the way the goal feels, and you might not like the plan. You might want to change sports, to use an analogy for living Sisu. You might want to change sports. But before you get off the bench and leave the field, which is the classroom in my case, so then you need to at least buy the equipment and register for the next sport. So you can't leave idle time. So the point of it was, I had a goal, I had a plan, and we sometimes get too married that we have to, like, that's it. That's the only thing for me. I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and come hell or high water, I'm done. And I got it, and I'm fortunate I happened to fall in love with it. But she gave me a very important piece of information. She said, Shane, you're allowed to change your mind. You can go for 3 months and not like it and not go. But before you leave, I don't care if you don't finish one more assignment for the next 2 months. Find something to do. Show up at that school until you have another place to go. So don't allow idle time. And that's not just for people in recovery. That's for everybody. Before you pivot a position, don't let yourself get stagnant. Don't sit back and let things happen to you. Make things happen for you, right? Mm-hmm. So nutrition got fascinating. Now, how I got really dug into it big time, we were doing our thesis statement on pathology, and we're doing it on acute and chronic illnesses. And everybody's doing like diverticulitis, Crohn's, colitis, blah, 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 blah. Digestive imbalances, and some people had diabetes. They were doing diabetes, and the American Medical Association denotes that alcoholism is a disease. Whether it is or isn't is debatable, but the effects are disease-like. I know that to be true. The damage it does to your GI tract, your liver, to your kidney, to your brain, all of that. So I asked if I could do my pathology report on drugs and alcohol, and nobody had written one of those before. So what we're trying to do with this pathology report is determine the pathology of the damage that this disease does to you, how it migrates through your body. What is its pathology? And I'm like, okay. And she's like, yeah, Shane, nobody's ever done it. And then, but everybody in the school knew that I went from rehab to my first day of school. Like I was in there within 2 weeks of graduating rehab, and they knew I came from rehab because I couldn't have an appointment for admission because I was in rehab when I applied. So I was kind of a little bit of a unique thing there where they knew me. I ended up being valedictorian too, by the way. I might tap my own shoulder. Hard
worker.
All young, intelligent people that were in this class. I think it was a gimme, but I'll take it. So I did the pathology on it, and what I started learning. This is how I got more delved into what Zach spoke to about whole life balance, which was one of my first iterations of my businesses. I learned that the pathology, so I ended up expanding. I did the report on alcoholism, and the interesting thing about alcohol is it doesn't just affect the liver, it also affects the brain, it also affects the stomach liner, your pH balance, your probiotics, your gut flora. It has a pathway. Liver is just the thing we always talk about because it dies the most. But it actually has a huge effect on your brain, your serotonin production, which is
pretty much everything, really.
Yeah.
It does, and it goes all the way through, but it was interesting to track it and what we could do to fix it. That's the thing. Now, you know what's wrong. Can you repair these things? And I got fascinated because I'm broken. I know that I've done this to myself. I'm reading this going, oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. This is not a page turner. This isn't a Tom Hardy novel. You know what I mean?
Am I fucked? Oh, my God. What?
Yeah, I'm like, that's going to happen? Like testosterone dropping, right? I had the testosterone of a 68-year-old at 46. Like, that's not, that doesn't get better. It's supposed to drop at 36, 37, I had the testosterone of like a 68-year-old. So I learned, and then I did the pathology. I hired a couple girls in my class, and I say girls in my class not to degradate anybody, but I was the only boy in the class. So, so I was the only.
This was the holistic nutritionist kind of class.
Yeah. So okay. I hired a couple colleagues, and we worked weekends doing the pathology on opioids, on uppers, on painkillers, on steroids, on legal and illegal drugs, the difference between heroin and oxy, and what the pathology is on those. And I really determined, this was the first thing that got me involved in moving to LA and becoming, kind of what built my name out there, was I called up the treatment center and I said, I think I have a really cool way to help people in early onset recovery and during the 30 days using vitamin IV solutions. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, I've figured out that the pathology of all the drugs, each one has one common effect. They all affect your circulatory system to a degree. They all affect the respiratory system to a degree. They all affect your organs and your GI, but they all affect your brain, and they all affect your serotonin production. and your dopamine. And I said, because I was now 2 years sober, and I didn't feel a ton better. Like, I knew I felt better, but I was still in a fog. Like, I was still kind of like, ho-hum. I wasn't happy, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't mad. I was kind of gray. So my therapist explained.
So you developed that, the IV, you developed that to help people.
Yeah, well, that's my therapist explained to me that what happens when you come off drugs, especially for 20 years that I used, your body doesn't have the ability to create serotonin production as efficient. So my happy is not nearly like your happy. But I don't want to live in a world that my happy is gray and your happy is bright blue, right? I want to be able to get back to blue. And is that possible? And it is, but it usually takes a very long time for people in addiction recovery. And what that worried me, again, going with human people and caring about people, was I didn't think then relapse was so much that I never relapsed myself because I had the information to know what was happening with me. I wanted more people to get this information. I thought, okay, well, I know it now, so maybe I'll share it to people that don't know what's going on. And the second is, I didn't think relapse was because people were weak, because I met some of the strongest people I've ever met in rehab that were at the worst of their life and they were still strong.
Yeah.
And I don't see how in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a year, they got weak all of a sudden, right? And what I learned is that it's kind of a psychological, metaphysical thing, but if you're not happy every day and you're doing everything right and you keep getting kicked in the pills every single time, eventually you're going to go look for what made you happy. And probably what made you happy the last time that you can remember was drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Even though it's a vicious cycle. So I figured if I could fast track, if I could speed up the serotonin production, how do we do it? Well, serotonin is made of 3 amino acids, my friends. Our body converts methionine, tryptophan, and phenylalanine. So I started making high concentration. I call the 3 A's, right? Because remember, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's amino, right? Triple A's. And I started making this high concentration drip, and we were giving them to people that were newly recovered. And we actually saw the recidivity rate in rehab drop by a certain amount of points. It wasn't a closed double-blind study. We just did it elective if people wanted to get an IV drip. And I started doing that for free, Zach. I didn't even have the business then. I just thought, we could help people. And I actually at the time thought the treatment center might hire me on as a nutritionist. So wink, wink, I was looking for a job because I hadn't started WLP yet. And then they didn't hire me because they couldn't bill me because I was a Canadian and I had a different work visa. So I'm like, that's why. They were like, we want you, Shane, but we can't bill you on U.S. insurance. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just do this privately then.
So then that's when you started it.
Yeah.
That's when you started the whole project then.
That's when I started Whole Life Balance. And what I wanted to do was take all the modalities of the treatment center I had, health, mind, and body, put them together, incorporate them together in a safe space that was an unquestionable space, that it was also took my nightclub history and kind of make it look cool. Like I didn't want it to look like a doctor's office because they suck. Yeah. Right? And so like I had LED lights that moved to music. We had plasmas everywhere. I mean, well, Zach could tell you, he was there. That's how we met. It was
a beautiful place. I mean, you could get everything there. It was the IV drip therapy that you're talking about, all the vitamins. It was the yoga, Pilates, massage therapy, acupuncture. It was really a one-stop shop. Yeah. It was actually awesome. And that's what I loved about it.
You know what I like about that story is that you didn't run away from what happened to your life. So you took the best you had in, when you were in the nightclub business, and you reused that knowledge that you had for now your business right now. And why I like this part of the story is because often people don't want to talk about their past or what drives them to a dark past. But I think everything that happens in your life happens for a reason. And even your most darkest moment, I think in life, we need to embrace all those moments. We need to not regret what we did, but we need to embrace it because it shaped us to be who we are right now, So the fact that you were able to use something that you learned in your nightclub business and then you can reuse it in your vitamin business right now, I think it's the best of both worlds. And it's a reminding that never regret what happened in your life. Just embrace everything and be happy of who you are.
Show courage, show resilience, and look at what he's created, right?
You got to own it. You got to own you, man. We have a tendency, and I'm not going to say your generation because it's this generation here too. I don't know why. it's not.
Are we getting in the generation talk or what?
Millennials. I got a ton of young guys and kids and girls that work with me that are 20 years younger than me, that are brighter than I'll ever be. And I've learned that they're harder working than me as long as they have the freedom to work hard. That's the difference. You put them in a shoebox and say, be creative between 8:30 and 4:30 in my office. It's like, but I'm creative between 4:30 and midnight. Yeah. What does that mean? They can't work? So we'll get on that topic another time. I think it's all. I think it's all misaligned. I think that people of my certain age want things in their little box they're used to, the same as when you're my age. Mm-hmm. You'll want things in your box, but I think if we don't have fluid movement amongst all of us, we're screwed. Yeah. But I think it goes back to this thing where I said, own it way back when. You've got to own it. Look, we are all idiots walking around trying to figure out how to be less of an idiot. None of us are that bright. I don't care how much you know, because whatever you know 1,000% of, I guarantee I can throw a topic that you know negative 1,000%, and vice versa you with me.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we don't know everything. We're not perfect. We're all learning. All of us. Yeah.
We're like, I think it's one of my buddies. I think it's Callan's. I think it was Callan. Brian Callan, comedian. Brian Callan.
Yep. The comedian.
Complicated Apes. I think it was Complicated Apes was the name of one of his stand-ups. I love the title because that's all we are. A bunch of complicated apes, right?
That's true. That's good.
It's a great title. I love it. It's a good stand-up, too. Brian, I love you, brother. I can't wait to see you back in that.
Hey, guys, let's switch. I feel like we could talk about this, for literally hours. Like I told you guys at the beginning, literally, hey.
Let me just say, what I want to say is don't blame anything else but own what your part of it is. That's what I want to say. Right. I can blame it on my childhood. I can blame it on the school kids. I can blame it on anything. I made a choice. I continue to make bad choices. I also own with pride that I made the right choice to fix it. Don't forget the good choices you make.
Yes,
we dwell on the bad shit too much, and we don't concentrate on the good shit enough. You got to own your wins and be really proud of them. I'm really vulgar on you there for that, brother. But be really proud. Like, there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself.
That's a fact.
That's true.
You don't need to be a bragger. You can be humble. You can be whatever. But, like, you know what, man? I'm sober 8 years. You know why? Because I've worked my ass off to be sober. I'm a better human being today because I've concentrated on being a better human. I am super proud of that. And I'm going to be, in 8 years from now, a more epic human being because I ain't stopping. Mm-hmm. And that's okay to say out loud. And you should be able to say it about you.
Amen, brother. Amen. Hey, look, that's the Sisu life right there. No?
Definitely.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about cool. Being involved. Taking a look in the mirror and saying, I like who I see. And if you don't, change it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to change.
We're about to head in the other segment of our show here, Shaner. Like I said at the beginning, let the record show. I did say this, that we could talk for about 4 hours. It's true. We're running long already, but we're going to run into the halftime show. We're way past the halftime show, but this is still the halftime show part of the Living Sisu Inspire podcast. It's also known as like the GOAT section. Okay. So I want to know a little bit. We want to let people know a little bit about your kind of sports background, who you like in sports and stuff. So John, you want to hit us off here with the halftime show?
Pretty much the GOAT section is your greatest of all time. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about your greatest of all time things. Okay.
All right.
So if you had to choose your greatest of all time sports book ever.
Sports book?
It could be like mental skills, an inspiration, a biography.
It's a movie, but it was a book first.
Rudy, the movie, huh?
Yeah, but the book. I think the book first. I think it was a book first. And it's a movie. I'm sorry if it's a book. If it's a book, it would be probably. I think it's called The Great One. I think it's the biography of Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good one. Mm-hmm. All right. And who, on your opinion, Shaner, who's the greatest athlete who's ever lived? Any sport, anytime. Greatest athlete who ever lived.
Such a difficult one to answer because it depends if you're transcending politics or just skill or what time they lived. I think, I keep going back to one in my head, Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Muhammad Ali, and I'm not even a huge boxing fan. I'm just learning boxing, but I think he just transcended sports.
Yeah. He changed the world, man. He changed the world and how people stand up for themselves.
Yeah, I have to say Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And that's
okay, let's go with the next GOAT question. Okay, I love it. Muhammad Ali, though, it's one of my GOATs also.
That's awesome. That is a GOAT.
Muhammad Ali he's amazing. All right, let's go with what is for you the greatest sports comeback of all time? If you have to choose your greatest of all time sports comeback.
Oh man.
Could be single best performance. Doesn't have to be a comeback, but like it could be the fastest time in the Olympics, most points, anything,
It's gonna be something in the UFC probably for me. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of God, I've got so many favorite moments. You with me with a few of them. I think I would have to say if you go back to, I forget what the number of the UFC was. Now, that's not the greatest moment of ever. Jeez, that's not even close. Thinking back to like Matt Hughes era. Honestly, there's too many for me. Greatest sports moment
ever.
Well, performance.
I'm going to go patriotic. I'm going to go the golden goal then. Sidney Crosby.
That is one of the best sports moment ever, to be honest.
Yeah, if I'm going, let's get out of just Muhammad Ali and fighting.
You had the UFC in your head there. You had to get out. You had to get out of the bubble.
It's got to be the golden goal, man. That was a pretty prideful thing for our country, and it was on our soil. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
Very cool. Very cool. And last question of the GOAT section, and this really hits home to me because I love these words. I love living Sisu and what it represents, and Sisu, the Sisu principles. And so here they are. Resiliency, determination, tenacity, courage, guts, grit, perseverance, inner strength, and will. What's your favorite one? What's the one that resonates with you, Shane, the most, and why? Tenacity.
100% jumps out at me. Courage, tenacity, I think that embodies almost all of them. To be tenacious, I think maybe because it feels like my personality a little bit. Like I'm loud, I'm aggressive, but I'm also soft and kind. So I think if I've got the right definition of it, I think tenacity. I think it just there's something.
That's great.
That jumps out at me big time. Tenacity.
That's good, brother. That's good. And I know we touched about this here too.
For me,
they are. I mean, the Sisu principles are so important because everybody goes through adversity, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's based on. And you need that inner strength to go through it and get better, like we were talking about for the past hour. You went through all these things,
and I think we all have these inner strength. I think
it's all there.
It's all in us. Just like you said, Shane, earlier, we all have good inside of us. We just need to work it out so that we can, always cultivate that good. I think we all have those Sisu strength inside of us. We all have them. We just need to work them out, cultivate them so that we can, we can use them when we need them.
I like that.
Think we all have those Sisu moments inside of us. Yeah.
Hey, you know what, Shane? I don't want to. We'll be here till midnight if we could, but we're gonna start to wrap it up slowly here. Just the fact that we're starting to wrap it up, well, we'll get there eventually here. We did talk about that a little bit before the last segment of the show here. That you're allowed to be proud. Be willing to be proud of yourself and what you do. But from your whole journey, from going to the bottom all the way to the top and who you are today, what makes you the most proud of your journey?
It would be the word truth, and that embodies a lot of stuff. Where I'm most proud that I'm truthful with myself, that I've learned to be 100% truthful with myself, good, bad, and ugly. It's a hidden thing. It's not something anybody else sees. It's something that I know. I know that whenever I go to do something, I'm 100% in it. I know that I'm committed. I know that I'm real. I know that I care. I know that part of it's for post. I know we post all of our crap and nonsense on social media, but when I post something that I write, I mean it. I mean it. And you know what? That means more to me that I know that I'm living with purpose than anything else. So, I mean, I'm proud that I'm sober. I'm extremely proud of my relationship with my nieces and nephews. And this goes back to truth. They know Uncle Shane's whole story. I've never lied to them. They were really young when I went to rehab. They were like preteen. And, they're now going to university.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have an amazing relationship. So I'm super proud that I've got my relationship with them. But I think it's a truth.
Very cool.
I think it's learning how to be honest with yourself. That's such a challenging thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing. That's the hardest thing that I've had to do is like sit back. We were talking before we started, and I was saying how I went and looked at a dog today for Mr. A new coach, and I didn't feel the connection with this dog, and I want a dog to fill the hole in my world right now. But I know selfishly I need to have a dog that needs me, that isn't independent, because it sounds horrible out loud, but it's the truth. I don't want an independent dog because I need to be needed.
Yeah.
Not just like to let him in and out. I need like that dog that cuddles, that wants to be around you, that's pushing up on you all the time.
Yeah.
Because it'll remind me that I matter. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. I'm not needed by anybody directly. I mean, my family needs me, my business needs me, but they will all go on without it. Kids, if you have kids, they need you for life.
Right. You need that partner.
Yeah.
You need that partner in crime. You know what I'm saying?
So I didn't choose to get the dog today because I'm like, I don't think this little guy needs me. He was a very independent little pooch. He's adorable. I mean, I loved him, right?
Yeah.
But he was like ready to jump out of my hand and just go run across the lawn in the middle of the snow, and he's this tall. And I'm like, yeah, I think he's too independent for me. I need somebody that is afraid to leave me, and that's selfish.
Well, I mean, you know what? I don't think that's, I mean, of you, I think that's humble, you know. That's humble, you know. You stayed patient. You talked about your history of making, you know, quick decisions and stuff before we all started recording, but that's really humble of you that you decided, hey, look, like, yeah, he's cute, he's 8 weeks old, but I'm gonna pass because you're looking for somebody specific for you, and that's cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Somebody else is gonna love the hell out of that dog, and some other family will in mind too, right?
It just wasn't for you, but it might be for someone else.
Yeah.
True. Well, you know, I want to know, because you said you're really proud of being truthful to yourself, and I'm asking myself now, what do you want to leave to the world? Usually I ask the question, what do you want to leave to the sport world? But I think your story resonates to everyone in this world, you know. So what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave the world? What do you want people to remember when Shane won't be here anymore? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, it's funny you asked me that, because a lot of the reason I am who I am is because of a similar assignment I got in rehab. I was told to write my eulogy.
Wow.
And this is a very interesting thing for anybody to try and do on their own. My therapist was John this time. He said, Shane, I want you to go out of this room today. We're starting our session. He goes, I'm going to take this pad, this pen, go back to your dorm. I want you to write your eulogy from your children's eyes. And I said, I don't have any children. He goes, do you want kids one day? I said, I guess. Like, I didn't know. Right? And he said, play along with me here. Write it from your kids' eyes. You're an uncle. You know what kids think, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, geez. And I thought at first, I don't want them to know about all my past and the drugs and the women and the things. And I'm shaking my head kind of. And he goes, well, it's a wonderful thing, Shane. They know you from the day that they're born, and they're not born yet. So go write your eulogy. Well, here's the thing. In that eulogy, I just went pen to paper. I didn't overthink it. The problem is a lot of people overthink it. I'm glad I'm not an overthinker. And I just wrote down written from my children's, talking about their dad, me, and it said, my father was the type of man that believed that trust was not earned, it was given and for you to keep. My father was the type of man that believed that equal rights were not equal rights, they were equal humanity. My father was the type of man that believed that compassion over conflict is always the way to win. My father was the type of man. It was things like that. And I wrote this thing so fast, bro. And I went back to my therapist. It was like 15 minutes. I wrote a page, and it was quite beautiful. I still have it in storage. And I read it to him. I said, check that. Let me read this to you, Doc. Let me read this to you. I said, this guy's awesome, right? And he's like, that's you. And I said, that's not me. That's a story I just wrote about a guy with kids. He goes, what more evidence do you need in your life to realize who you are at your core than writing a statement of what you want to be remembered by when you're gone?
Wow. That's super powerful.
He said, Shane, you just wrote how you want to be remembered by what will probably be the two most important things in your life, or single most important, your children. And he literally looked at me, and this to me, telling you what my legacy is, go do it.
Right.
Because that's
that's a cool exercise to do. I mean, it's hard, but I get you're going to gain a lot from it.
I learned everything. He said, go be him. That's what he said. He read it. He said, go be him. And I said, that's not me. He said, that's you. Go be him. Go be
Yeah,
nice.
I got chills right now, John. How are
I'm
you right
having
now?
shivers, man. It's crazy. It's
This
crazy.
is so good. Honestly, I mean, Shane, thank you so much for sharing that, man.
One of the best assignments ever. And it's not, and and that's why I said earlier, guys, this is not hard. This is about getting honest, right? So is it harder for me to slow down and not race through my business day and take time for myself and make sure I get my training in and make sure I take a nap and make sure I drink and my hydrate and make my smoothie? Yeah, it'd be easier for me to not do all of that shit, but that's stuff that helps me be a better human being. It's important for me. It'd be really easy for me. When Zach and I talking earlier this week, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to hop on this thing?" And I'm like, "I'd love to." I'd love to, buddy. I'm in it like a dirty shirt. Not just because I'm not out here to brand myself. I could care less if people are going to find me or not. I'm not ever trying to market myself. I want to help my bro. I love what he's doing with Living Sisu. I love the concept of Living Sisu. When he told me about it a year ago, I was jacked. I'm like, how do I get involved? How do I get vitamin on there?
Right.
I love it. I know who he is, and I've now learned who he's involved with, and I think it's brilliant. I want to be around people doing great things.
Yeah.
And Living Sisu, the community is great, and
It is.
we're super proud of it. And to have you part of this and you sharing stories like this it's unbelievable, Shane. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to speak for John and I together and the whole kind of Living Sisu community, because you're a really inspiring figure. You've been through a lot of shit, right? You've been through a lot, and now it's so great to see you give back, and it's so great to see all the steps you've taken, all the work you've done, and I see you every day posting how you're working out super hard. You're hitting the bag. You're doing different things. Your dad comes in the gym with you. You're doing all these things. You're jumping in the hypothermic lake, man, and you're doing that to better your health, to better yourself, to see what's really inside. And the fact that you found your truth, honestly, is super inspirational. You really embody the Sisu principles from A to Z, and I'm real grateful that you came on and shared all these things today. And I hope the people that have listened to this have gotten great lessons out of it all. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, man, like, thank you so much for coming on the Inspire podcast by Living Sisu. Like, you helped inspire so many. So going through adversity, finding your inner Sisu, man, thank you. I really appreciate you, brother.
I love you guys, man. It's my pleasure. I'm so proud of you. John, it's great to meet you. I know I'm going to be more proud of you as I get to know you, sir.
It's great to see you.
I'm already proud of you because you showed up, bro.
I'm
You
here.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm
I
here
don't even know
anytime.
more that you're on the call, man. That's enough. We'll start from there and we'll build it. We'll build the mountain.
Yeah, and you know what? We're gonna have you back. You're gonna be one of the returning guys for
Most
sure.
definitely.
Because we know we could talk for 6 hours, so we might as well have 6 episodes, huh?
That's
All right, brother.
I got asked to be on an iPad on a podcast once. They said we can fit you in for 15 minutes. Said I can't do it.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. Yeah,
brother.
that's good. All right, thank you very much. Have a good night, and we'll see you soon.
See you
Cheers,
soon,
guys.
Shane.
Peace out.
Wow, thank you guys for listening to this amazing interview with Shane Griffin from Vitamin Patch Club. John, I mean, this was really good. I'm really excited about it. Thank you very much for listening. Just a couple things before we head out, and just go follow us on Instagram and our Facebook group, where we're going to be sharing a lot of the events we're developing and having fun together and sharing all our experiences together. So join the community. There's a lot of inspiring words shared during this podcast and all of our podcasts. So if you want to share them to a friend, please do. Our goal is to really inspire as many people as possible. So thank you so much for being part of the community and listening to our podcast. And make sure you go download our app, Living Sisu, on the app stores.
Remember, guys, in our podcast, we will have athletes who will give us their stories, who will tell us how they are able to live the Sisu principle, the Sisu lifestyle. But we'll also have health, fitness, and wellness professionals just to give us accurate information to have the most healthy lifestyle possible. So please follow us, share our podcast, and be inspired.